Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lauders, boarders and literature hoarders, welcome along to the James Spivey YouTube channel where we discuss books and little else. And welcome back to another Random Reviews, folks. I was just a little bit of admin before we get going. I was another titbit of my life. I was just strolling down for my once weekly caffeinated gloop today at Cafe Nero in the centre of Hull, and I far from wanting to demean the person that served me behind the counter, I am frankly disappointed with the customer service folks. They don't have enough. They're not the Viceroy of India. They're not running for a government department in any country. But you know, they have many jobs. They have many duties. But they're not exactly numerous or momentous. So, but their primary job is to listen, of course, and so that if I go to the counter and ask for a polka dot dress with an elasticated gusset, the lady should tell me that I'm in the wrong shop. If I ask for the time, she should be able to tell me that it's 11:15. If I ask for a regular iced latte to take away, she should present me with one of those commodities for the tradable price of £3.50 or whatever. And she did not do that. Quite what the word iced meant to her, quite how it was camouflaged, I'm just not sure. Maybe she thought I was saying I'd like one of your regular nice lattes. The idea that if I hadn't have stated that officially, that she would have handed me one of her lackluster lattes, I'm not sure. But I got a warm one, and it's a reasonably cold day, so I shouldn't be as vitriolic as I am. But anyway, this is Anthony Trollope's Eustace Diamonds, folks, the third in the Parliamentary series, and how fitting indeed, because it is at time of recording what date are we on now? It's the 23rd of May, is it? And yesterday, Rishi Sunak, I obviously I'm aware that you guys are all, are mainly American or foreign in one guise or another. And I know that our stodgy British stools do take some time to sort of get down the plumbing. But if you haven't heard, I'm here to tell you that in the kind of the splattering rain outside 10 Downing Street yesterday evening, our Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced the dissolution of Parliament and therefore the coming of an election in but 6 weeks' time. So that'll be fun, the 6-week festival of filibustering and all that. And I am going to hereby predict that the Labour Party will win a governmental majority numbering 55. I'm going to say 55, 56, 55. Let us see how that prediction ages. But yes, this is, it's not showing up very well, is it? It's rather glossy, and so it's reflecting the window light. But anyway, this is, Trollope's Eustace Diamonds, published probably around 1860 or 70, that sort of period, proper camped in the middle of the Victorian era, and it is another novel in which politics plays a really minor role thus far anyway. We're about halfway through. It certainly is the food colouring and not the self-raising flour on the butter, if you'll allow me to analogize, and I know that you will. So this involves, as we would imagine, our eponymous Eustace Diamonds. There is a conniving, mischievous, but still rather very stately and elegant young lady in here going by the name initially of Lizzie Greystock, and she is very clever. She is very suave. She is a tinker. She's extraordinarily, sort of in a weird, ceaselessly adamantine way. She's extraordinarily selfish. Everything that goes through her mind is put towards how indeed Lizzie Eustace can either get on in the world or how she can get out of a scrape. Everything that goes through her head is designed with her in mind. But we don't mind that. This 21st century individualism copes quite well with some of Trollope's scourges. But anyway, yes, and she, with a mixture of that sort of conniving wit and kind of obsequious eyelash fluttering, she finds herself a very moneyed husband by the name of Sir Florian Eustace, and lo and behold, he goes and cops it rather quickly, folks. They don't have an excellent marriage. She acknowledges at the time and later on that it would never have been a match made in heaven, in which a love whose month was ever May or whatever. She knows it's for purely mercantile purposes that she is wed with him. And she comes in possession of a castle called Portray Castle in Scotland, and he leaves everything to her and her son. They have a little Sir Florian Eustace. Once more, just a little side note, Trollope does not dwell at all with babies. You would imagine if you had a kind of a little cuddly ankle biter or whatever, that he would focus a little more on them, but he really does not. I think the baby gets 2 mentions, whereas in modern fiction, the narrative would kind of pivot around that youngster. But Trollope really doesn't. I sense he doesn't like babies. I don't know how many children he had, but yeah. Anyway, there's not much paternal about him. But anyway, and Mr. Florian Eustace's sort of surviving executor, Mr. Camperdown, who is a practical but not very guileful barrister slash lawyer slash legal executor, as I've already said, and he is very, very aware that there is around her neck, as we can see here, a kind of a necklace of diamonds that is worth upwards of 10,000 British pounds at the time. That translates to probably the best part of $1 million nowadays, hundreds of thousands, if I'm sure, if we account for inflation and all that. And he sees it as his duty to reclaim said diamonds. Lizzie, of course, initially deems them an heirloom. They later become what is legally referred to as paraphernalia. But she is, adamant that Sir Florian left them deliberately in her possession, and should she be deprived of them, that would be iniquitous and all of this. Other characters, she initially lives with a really staunch lady called, and bitter and yet rather endearing lady called Lady Linlithgow, who reminds everybody, or should remind everybody, of Lady Cadwallader from George Eliot's Middlemarch. Very spiteful, very wise, just sits in her rocking chair and is sort of discursive and effusive about all of the idiocies around her. And we have, in another separate, obviously there is a cousin of Lizzie Greystock called Frank Greystock, who is, again, an upstanding politician. He's sort of slowly climbing the ladder. This is the only kind of small references to politics in this novel. And he sort of goes around and finds himself a match who's named Lucy Morris, who is sort of antithetical to everything that Lizzie Eustace is. She's, demure and small. She's a little tinker every now and then, but she's, wholeheartedly earnest, and she looks out for others, and she's a sort of plain Jane governess who helps out Lady Linlithgow and later Lady Fawn. And before long, of course, I'm trying to switch here because this is less than auspicious, this lighting. But anyway, before long, of course, it is expected for Lady Eustace to be in mourning for a little while, but she's soon going to kind of take that drape off of her and have herself another husband. And Lord Fawn, a cautious, kind of courageless coward who is nonetheless a peer and has all the appurtenances of the kind of establishment acceptance, comes up to her, and then we have that brilliant contrast as Frank Greystock gets to know her a little more and sides with her against Mr. Camperdown and Lord Fawn and everybody else, essentially, who we recognise to be correct in the assertion that the diamonds really should not be for Lizzie Eustace and they should go back to the family rather than stay around her neck, because they fear, of course, that she'll sell them, that she'll palm them off for some inordinate sum. But yes, Frank Greystock soon starts to consort with her and likes her, of course, and there's that great difference that Trollope likes to draw between a kind of a romantic dalliance, a real frisson, a real chemistry-driven connection, and just the kind of almost autistic drive towards marrying for security. And he discusses that, and as Frank Greystock vacillates between the two, and that's essentially where we are. It's really much ado about nothing. We continue going on and on and on. Trollope, of course, waxes lyrical about hunting every now and then. I'm slap bang in the middle of a really, really exhaustive hunting season, or rather hunting section, and but it's jolly good, and it's a real page turner, and it's comedic and it's sardonic, and this is said to be, I've had a look on the old internet, this is supposed to be the point at which Trollope really starts to be a sort of cultural critic. He starts to be, he starts to show his most demonstrable and vexatious disapproval of, you know, the ills and malices of society. But anyway, I've got 4 sections to read out. First of all, we're talking about the cleverness of Lizzie Greystock, as she turns out, and then it becomes Lady Eustace, and possibly becomes Lady Fawn later as well. So this is... I've been wondering if these set of characteristics were poured into the pot of malehood. Of course, we would probably find them very attractive indeed. But because, of course, we have a whole, or they used to have certainly then, a whole different section of criteria by which we view the feminine form than the masculine form, we are told to dislike Lizzie Eustace by Trollope all the way. We have said that she was clever. We must add that she had in truth studied much. She spoke French, understood Italian, and read German. She played well on the harp and moderately well on the piano. She sang, at least in good taste and in tune. Of things to be learned by reading she knew much, having really taken diligent trouble with herself. She had learned much poetry by heart and could apply it. She forgot nothing, listened to everything, understood quickly, and was desirous to shine not only as a beauty, but as a wit. There were men at this time who declared that she was simply the cleverest and the handsomest woman in England. As an independent young woman, she was perhaps one of the richest. What's not to like, folks? What's not to like? And mentioning poetry by heart there's a fabulous section where she tries to remember bits of Shelley, and there are references to Byron and to Adam Bede as well. In particular, the references to Byron and Shelley with her castle on the edge of a cliff. You know, an academic could go on until the cows come home about... You know, she's always wanting a corsair to come and sort of, you know, sweep her off her feet or whatever and grab her by the hips and have his merry way with her. She wants a kind of a sort of Byronic, bearded, dangerous individual to come and sort of ransack her and trouble her. We sense, but we of course do not know. Next up, we have the position of the diamonds and the legalities therein, and so I'll read that out. Could it really be the case that they would prosecute her for stealing? Remember, Camperdown and co are after her. She was Lady Eustace, and who but Lady Eustace should have these diamonds or be allowed to wear them? Nobody could say that Sir Florian had not given them to her. It could not surely be brought against her as an actual crime that she had not answered Mr. Camperdown's letters. And yet she was not sure. Her ideas about law and judicial proceedings were very vague. Of what was wrong and what was right, she had a distinct notion. She knew well enough that she was endeavouring to steal the Eustace diamonds. But she did not in the least know what power there might be in the law to prevent or to punish her for the intended theft. She knew well that the thing was not really her own, but there were, as she thought, so many points in her favour that she felt it to be a cruelty that anyone should grudge her the plunder. Was not she the only Lady Eustace living? As to these threats from Mr. Camperdown and Lady Linlithgow, she felt certain they would be used against her, whether they were true or false. She would break her heart should she abandon her prey, and afterwards find that Mr. Camperdown would have been wholly powerless against her had she held on to it. But then who could tell her the truth? She was sharp enough to understand, or at any rate suspicious enough to believe, that Mr. Mopus would be actuated by no other desire in the matter than that of running up a bill against her. So that's the, I think they're called Mopus and something else, the few lawyers that will try to help her. Next we have the difference set up between, this is Lucy, again, more of Lizzie Eustace's sort of craftiness. I'm going to try and sort of build more and more of this in. She had been a very clever child, a clever, crafty child, and now she was becoming a clever woman. Her craft remained with her, but so keen was her outlook upon the world that she was beginning to perceive that craft, let it be never so crafty, will in the long run miss its own object. She actually envied the simplicity of Lucy Morris, for whom she delighted to find evil names, calling her demure, a prig, a sly puss, and so on. So remember, Lucy Morris is the simple governess that has won the hand of Frank Greystock, who Lizzie Eustace and we are led to believe would have proposed to her, but not for an accident of faith. But she could see, or half see, that Lucy, with her simplicity, was stronger than she was with her craft. Lizzie Eustace, had nearly captivated Frank with her wiles, but without any wiles, Lucy had captivated him altogether. And a man captivated by wiles was only captivated for a time, whereas a man won by simplicity would be won forever. If he himself were worth the winning, and this too she felt, that let her success be what it might, she could not be happy unless she could win a man's heart. She had won Sir Florian's, but that had been but for an hour, for a month or two, and then Sir Florian had never really won hers. Could not she be simple? Could not she act simplicity so well that the thing acted should be as powerful as the thing itself, perhaps even more powerful? Oh, poor Lizzie Eustace. In thinking over this, she saw a great deal. It was wonderful that she should see so much and tell herself so many home truths, but there was one truth she could not see, and therefore could not tell it to herself. She had not a heart to give. It had become petrified during those lessons of early craft, in which she had taught herself how to get the better of Messrs. Harter and Benjamin, of Sir Florian Eustace, of Lady Linlithgow, and of Mr. Camperdown. And so we are at the point where Camperdown is drafting letters and is she's going to her retreat one day, and he stops her in the street, essentially sort of puts a barrier before her cab, a brougham or whatever, a brougham, and goes inside and asks for them time and time again, and she is obstinate in her refusal to do so. But yes, this is jolly good. Yeah, there's a little bit of a stodgy hunting section that I'm getting through now, but beyond that, I am as happy a Trollopian as ever. And so, yes, I think that's about it, folks. Please bear in mind that I am going to be sullying this channel with all sorts of election chat, but I think we can forgive me for that. And so, yes, please do let me know what you think of the Eustace Diamonds. Any of you guys that are that have ripped your way through Trollope series in the past, let me know if this is your favourite. It's really not parliamentary or political in any sense thus far, but Trollope can taxonomise his works as he pleases. So yes, I'm going to thank you ever so much for watching BookTube, and of course, as ever, say goodbye.